that I was playing in the past. Now I'm super fast, real raw, relevant. I'm also known as super bad, with a super attitude. If you don't like it, you can book a pass and be the first in line to kiss mine. Wait a minute, what I mean is I'm a lion, not a sheep. I don't need a weakling around to try to follow me. I'm destined to be better, getting bigger every day. I don't got the patience to sit around try to play. Focus like an animal, king of the jungle, cannibal. Tear apart the...
So my friends, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to talk today about a couple of things. Number one, I've actually got a couple of really cool people that we're going to be bringing onto the podcast. Some local celebrities, some local people. I decided that I want to start having more conversations with people. This is the cool part about having my own podcast. Got messages from people like, dude, you should build a studio and you should do this and you should do that. And I'm like, hey, you know what you should do? You should just do a podcast, period. There's all kinds of people that want to criticize and this, that, and the other. But I'm excited because I want to start bringing some people on, having some more conversations about different topics. So Jake, our illustrious videographer, his mom is what is she? What's her title? She's a sex therapist. She's a certified sex therapist. And I don't know how this came up yesterday. I don't know how it came up. But we were talking about it, and he's like, dude, this is what my mom does. And I was like, dude, we need to have her on we need to do a podcast and talk about sex. And I think that's a great topic. I think that's a great idea. So I'm going to have her on and some other people. I've got a girl that I know in Salt Lake who's like uber ultra feminist, like hardcore feminist, like armpit hair longer than mine feminist. And she's really cool. She's really cool. I don't know how I feel about the armpit hair, but regardless, we could not be any more different in our political views, our social views, but for some reason we respect each other and we get along. And I'm like, you need to come on my podcast and we need to talk about this whole fucking feminist thing. And she's like, I'd love to. And I'm like, dude, that would be like a 3-hour podcast of absolute ridiculousness. I think I should drink a bunch of whiskey before that one. You know what I mean? Then it'd be really, really cool. So my friends, some really interesting things have been happening lately with the media. I want to talk about the media today. Like, I've been wanting to have this conversation for a long time, and I have this conversation every single day. But, like, we need to have this conversation together, you and I, on the podcast, and talk about the media, because it's getting to the point that it's like, if it wasn't so bad, like, I'd be actually nervous about it, but it's literally so bad that it's becoming comical. The amount of distortion, the amount of ridiculousness happening in the media. And as I was working on the truck this morning, we were talking about doing the podcast today. I started thinking about different things to talk about with regards to this. And like, the interesting thing that most people don't understand about the media is that the media literally does not care about you and I. Like, a lot of people think that the media, that these news organizations are in business to inform us. Like, they're not in the business to inform us. They're in the business to scare the all-living shit out of us so that we'll tune in, we'll pick a team, we'll pick a side, and we'll rally behind whatever that story is and believe it. Now, think about this for a second. These news organizations, the media, I'm just going to lump them in. I'm talking Fox, CNN. I'm not a Republican. I'm an independent conservative. So I'm not a Fox guy. I'm not a CNN guy. Everybody's like, oh, Fox is conservative and CNN. They're all fucking crooked. All of the media is crooked. Every single news outlet has an agenda. And the crazy thing is the agenda is not you and I. And so as I'm thinking about this earlier today, we were having a conversation talking about the media. Like, a lot of people think that the media, like, we tune in and we find these anchors that we like and we listen to, and we actually believe that they're in the business of helping us. The media is not in the business of helping you and I. Like, it was not established to be this charitable organization. It's a business, and it's in the business of generating revenue. And it generates revenue by collecting eyeballs of people and keeping them fixed on whatever it is that they have to say. Now, typically what they say is anything that will get you to watch. Think about this for a second. It's not necessarily the truth. It's not necessarily factual occurrences or this or this or this. It's literally whatever they say whatever they need to say to get you to tune in, to watch. If you think about that for a second, think about how destructive that is. Like Denzel Washington, I'm not a huge fan of him. He's a great actor, but he did an interview and he kind of roasted the media, and he talked about how the media is not in the business of telling the truth. The media is in the business of being first. The breaking news, right? We've got breaking news. I can literally go to the media organization and say, Donald Trump has 4 penises. I swear I saw it and I have a picture. And the next thing you know, TMZ is going to fly. Oh my gosh, Donald Trump's 4 penises coming at 4 p.m. today. Stay tuned for the breaking news. CNN, Fox, ABC, NBC, everybody's going to tune in and say, this freak, our president's a freak, and he's got 4 penises, and all of a sudden craziness, and there's a sex tape. And now this little bullshit story would literally escalate to this massive breaking news world headline thing, and it's not even true. This is how it works. This is what the media is. And then all of a sudden, like, you roast somebody, you completely destroy somebody, and who's held accountable? Who do we go after? Who loses their job? Who gets put in jail for defamation of character or slander? Case in point, I don't care if you like him or not. I happen to like the guy, Milo Yiannopoulos, okay? The dude is gay, openly gay. He's flaming gay, right? Which is not a problem. I have no problem with homosexuals. He talks about his gayness and his black boyfriends and all this other stuff very, very openly. The dude is raw. He talks about anything and everything that he wants. He's very, very open. Well, recently he did a late night interview, a podcast interview of some sort, and he talked about this and this and this and how he was 13 and lost his virginity and blah, 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 and the priest and a boy and the whole thing. What's fascinating is the next day, the media gets a hold of this, and now all of a sudden, Milo Yiannopoulos is condoning pedophilia. Is that the right word, pedophilia? Did I say that right? He's condoning pedophilia. When really, what he said is something that's very common to say in the gay community, apparently, which is when an older man is with the younger man, and the younger man is the boy. And he's talking about how the boy's in the relationship. Well, what does the world say? What did the media say? The media spun this freaking story to literally take this guy, Milo, and make him out to be a dude endorsing and promoting and pushing pedophilia. Now, I listened to the interview, and I understand exactly what he said because I have fucking common sense, because I actually use my brain, because I don't tune into CNN and go, oh my gosh, this guy is talking about having sex with little children? No, he didn't say that at all. And what happened? Fox, ABC, NBC. I mean, hell, he was all over the Drudge Report. He was all over every media outlet. And every single one of them was pinning him and talking him about how he did this interview and he was endorsing literally pedophilia, which is crazy. He comes out and he says, in no way, shape, or form do I endorse this. Do I support this? Do I condone this? But what's happened? The media has taken to the airwaves, and they are the, quote, authority, right? Why? We're in the business of helping you, Americans. We're in the business of keeping you informed, Americans. We're in the business of helping show and expose the truth to you, world. Bullshit. They're in the business of collecting eyeballs, and they will do it at any cost. And if that means torpedoing, coming after, lying, cheating, stealing, to get a story to become headline news, to be first to the table, they will do it. And it's sad. I've been watching this whole thing with Milo. I actually emailed him the other day because I'd really like to connect with him. I'd like to have him on the podcast. I'd like to have a conversation with him. I'm getting ready to launch a speaking tour, and he's getting ready to launch a speaking tour. And in some way, shape, or form, I'd like to connect because I like the way the guy thinks. The guy's not, he's not afraid to talk about crazy shit. He's not afraid to talk about the gay community and what they say in the gay community. And what happens is he says something, and then all of a sudden, boom, here's a headline deal. We're kind of crickets for news, right? There's not a whole lot happening in the country. What do we need to do to rile everybody up, to get the eyeballs tuning in, to get everybody watching? Well, let's create this Milo guy. Well, he kind of said that, oh, he's supporting and endorsing pedophilia. Let's run with it. It's really, really crazy, my friends. Like, think about this for a second. Like, the media outlets, the media channels are no different than fast food restaurants. They're no different than fast food restaurants. Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, we're all serving up hamburgers. Fox, ABC, NBC, CNN, we're all serving up the, quote, news. But what are we seeing? What do you watch when you see these commercials? These McDonald's commercials or these Burger King commercials, and you have some chick who's like got sauce dripping all over her and this and this and this. And then the other one's got a basketball player and it's masculine and it's manly to eat a hamburger. And then if you eat this hamburger over here, you're going to have this hot chick with barbecue sauce dripping down her boobs and the whole fucking thing. We're talking about a goddamn hamburger. And they want to spin it however they want to spin it. Why? Because they want you to buy their hamburger. If you eat this hamburger, you're bound to get a chick with her tits hanging out with barbecue sauce dripping all over. But if you eat them over here, you're going to play way better basketball. You'll be way more of a man. You'll chop wood so much better. The media is no different than the freaking fast food joints. And most people are too fucking stupid to understand that. And that's the crazy thing to me, is that people legitimately don't see this. They don't understand that the media outlets, the media organizations on this planet are not here to help you. They're not your friend. They're not here to say, they don't wake up in the morning and go, you know what? We really need to help Sean have a better day. We need to inform him. They're like, how do we get the most money? By telling the most hellacious, crazy, like sexy, scandalous story. Think back to the presidential campaign when you know Donald Trump said half the stuff that he said. You want to know why Donald Trump won and not only won the presidency but overcame those stories? You want to know why Milo will overcome this and will actually come out stronger? Simply because he tells the fucking truth. He says it the way he wants to say it, and at the end of the day, like, they're not backpedaling from any of this stuff. You can spin the story however you want, but it is the truth. And at the end of the day, if you think about what happened with Trump and who was it? Who was the guy that he was debating with or bantering with about like the size of his dick? Remember that whole thing where he talked about how big his dick was in his hand and the comparison of the hand? It wasn't Cruz. Wasn't it Ted Cruz? I think it was Ted Cruz. Anyways, here's the funny thing: the media runs. Donald Trump's talking about his penis and and he's just this grotesque man. And what was funny and what was very miscalculated by the media is that every man on the planet, every single man in America, like, listened to what Donald Trump said and was like, yeah, I say the same thing. Oh, shit. Wait, we didn't get him with that one. Okay, let's come up with another one. Dig a little deeper, little reporters, you little minions on the street. Let's find something else. See, I've had personal experience with this, my friends, and I want to share the story with you simply because, like, I like to relate my life into this podcast. I relate my life and experiences that I have into my website, into my videos, into my business. And I can speak firsthand for how crooked and how deceptive the media is. Let me tell you something that happened to me. Years ago, I was big in the real estate game, building a company, was very, very young, very successful at a young age. Had a lot of employees. When the market was crashing, one of my businesses was losing millions while the other one was making millions. And it was this interesting juggle back and forth. Well, one of my companies ended up losing millions of dollars, and we had to go through a bankruptcy with the company. As we're going through this bankruptcy, what's fascinating is my other company is thriving in the middle of this downturn, okay? The market's crashing. We're flipping houses. We're doing very, very well over here. Well, a local newspaper, the Daily Herald here in Utah, the business reporter, the business columnist, found out about me and what we were doing in the company and the explosive growth and the revenue we were doing and all this other stuff. And they said, hey, we want to do this article on you. I said, fantastic. They came out, they did the article, they did the write-up, the whole thing. They took the pictures. It was great. A couple weeks later, front page of the business section is yours truly. I didn't have a beard, though. So perhaps if I'd have had the beard, the story would have turned out a little bit different. But I digress. I'm on the front page of the business section, and they're featuring me and the local company and the growth and the whole thing. Well, one of the lawyers in the bankruptcy proceedings called the paper and said, hey, this kid's full of shit. He's a fraud. He's in bankruptcy and blah, 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 blah. 3 days later, the exact same paper, which had just written up this front page article praising what I was doing, praising the company, praising the growth, the employees, the whole thing, writes another front page. So I actually made the front page twice in 3 days, which is kind of cool. They do another article, and they say this investor, me, was being accused of fraud. They were accusing me of fraud in my bankruptcy. Some of the creditors were. So I have these two completely polar opposite stories that had been put out by the media. Okay. Now let's fast forward to the end. The bankruptcy is discharged. It's done. No fraud, no this, all of these accusations, all of this bullshit that had been talked about, how I was deceptive and all of this other stuff. Nothing. None of it's true. A whole bunch of bullshit had been thrown into the newspapers. I had been in the newspapers. I had been in the magazines. You know, my company was growing. We were doing very, very well. I was the young entrepreneur. I won a 30 under 30 award, you know, all this other stuff. Well, what sells? The eyeballs, the sex, the sizzle, right? So this paper does this write-up accusing me, saying that I've been accused of fraud, headline, the whole thing. Well, the end of the bankruptcy comes, and I have all the paperwork saying that none of it's true, that it's been discharged and it's gone. So I called the newspaper, and I called the editor, and I called the person who wrote the story, and I called multiple people there. I tried to get a hold of their legal team, and I said, hey, here's the paperwork. Here's the deal. Everything that you wrote is bullshit. Everything that you wrote, everything that you said in your story is actually false. What you wrote and what you accused me of is 150% false. Here's literally legal documentation from the courts showing that what you wrote is bullshit. I want you to take this article down. Guess what, to this day, is still online? The article. Why? Because thousands and thousands of people every single month Google Sean Whalen and look this up, look my name up, and what do they find? They actually pulled the other story down and left this story up. Legal documents. I'm sitting there going to the paper, going to the newspaper saying, you're wrong. This is proven. Legal documentation that what you wrote is 150% false. They won't take it down. Think about that for a second, my friends. Like it's nowadays you can literally go online. You can say anything you want about anybody. And people are literally so stupid. Like so naive that they'll believe a good majority of everything that they read. Is it true? Nowadays, it doesn't even need to be true. The question is it popular? Is it sexy? Will it sell? Oh, this investor, he's a fraud. He's this. He's deceptive, and he's this. Well, none of it's true. And there's literally no moral or legal obligation of this newspaper to take that article down. And so it still floats out there in cyberspace, and people find it all the time, and they think it's really cool and funny to post it and this, that, and the other. Like, this is what's wrong. This is what's wrong, is that so many people truly believe that the media has their best interest. The media does not have my best interest, does not have Milo Yiannopoulos' best interest, does not have your interest listening to this. The media does not have your best interest. They are not in business to help you. They are in business to get your eyeballs onto their site, onto their TV, onto your phone, and click on the articles. Look at the things. Why? Because the more that they do that, the more they can charge for advertising space. The more they can charge for their pay-per-click. The more that they can collect from the advertisers. So why do you think they say what they say? Why do you think the media does what it does? Like, why do you think they're in the business of reporting what it is that they want to report? Why do you think that so many different media organizations have so much bias one way or the other? My friends, don't for a second think that the one hamburger joint is in the business of helping you every single day. They're in the business of outperforming their competitors by getting your eyeballs and ultimately your dollars to buy their hamburger. So they will say anything, do anything, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's true or not, to get you to come into their establishment. No different than Fox, ABC, NBC, or CBN. They will say anything and do anything to get you to switch to their channel. They will say anything and do anything to get you to repost their articles. Here's the crazy thing. It might not be real. It might not be true. It could literally be massively destructive to another human being, to a business, to a this, to a that. Think that through for a second, my friends. Like, this is a really, really interesting time that we live in. Like, we're in a very, very fast-moving technological age, but we're also supposed to be somewhat critical thinkers, aren't we? I mean, shouldn't we be asking more questions? Shouldn't you be looking at things and actually questioning versus riding whatever ship it is that you're on, whatever news channel that you're watching? Shouldn't you be looking and verifying and doing fact-checking? Like, that's the thing that fascinates me, is how little work people do, how little searching people do to find out truth. Like, the way that I see the media, the way that I look at it, doesn't mean that I don't look at the newspapers. Denzel Washington said it. It was a really, really interesting comment that he said. He said, if you read the papers, you're misinformed. If you don't read the papers, you're uninformed. I have the same opinion with the news, with what you watch on TV, what you read on Facebook. If you're watching the news, you're being misinformed. But if you don't watch the news, you're uninformed. So what's the solution? Like, what would be the solution for this? Because ultimately, you've got to figure out what's going on in the world, right? I mean, I guess technically you really don't. You can stick your head up your ass or hide up in the mountains or whatever. I like to collect a bunch of data and then do my own common sense thinking behind it. Fox is going to say this. CNN's going to say this. I watched the election night. I flipped between two channels, Fox and CNN. And it was ridiculously fascinating watching what they were both reporting. We're watching the same movie. You and I were watching the same movie, and it would literally be as if we were watching two completely separate movies. I was switching between these two channels. Like, we're watching the same thing unravel. People are going out and voting. States are reporting. Counties are reporting. Yet this channel says one thing completely different than this channel. Which is it? What they're in the interest of and what they're in the business of is not reporting to you the truth, my friends. They are in the business of collecting eyeballs. The media is in the business of collecting eyeballs. They are not in the business of reporting truth. Don't for a second think that when you flip on a news channel, when you see an article, when you read something, that is necessarily in your best interest as fact or truth. That's just this is the truth behind it. You know, I talk about truth and what's not. And you can believe me or not believe me. I don't really give a shit either way. I'm old enough, wise enough, and have put enough common sense into this conversation and looking that I challenge anybody. I mean, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong that these media organizations wake up every single day, that the CEOs, that the reporters wake up thinking about you, thinking about the American people, thinking about the greater good. They don't give a flying fuck about that. They don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about the greater good. They give a shit about being first on TV, having the banner that says breaking news, and getting your eyeballs to tune in. That's all they care about. Period. Which is why frying a human being, which is why a newspaper like the one that reported on me was so fast to report, this guy's a fraud. He's a total fraud. And they're so slow to retract afterwards. Why? Because it sells. Why? Because when you Google me, that article comes up. And that means that eyeballs go to their website, which drives their clicks and their algorithms, which allows them to charge more for ad space on their website. It's not hard to understand, my friends. If you actually have any common sense in your brain, you understand how the media works. The media is no different than a burger joint. They're all serving the same shit. Why are they so radically different? Why is this pitch about this? Why does this pitch about this? Like, step back for a second and put some common sense into your brain and understand this. Like, I'm not here to trash anybody, this, that, or the other. I'm just here to tell you that I've watched this unravel. This is the gospel according to me. I don't believe any of them. Fox, ABC, NBC. Well, Sean, what do you do then? How do you determine what's right or what's wrong? I find myself, ground myself on common sense. What are my morals? What are my values? What do I care about? What's important to me? I collect all the data. I put into my own hat on, my own common sense thinking, and say, what's right and what's wrong with all of this? Like the whole Milo Yiannopoulos thing. I went and I watched I watched the interview. I listened to what he said. I used some critical thinking. I thought to myself, here's an openly gay man who's very, very, very flamboyant, who has lots of stories to tell, who's very much in the public eye, who's traveled the country speaking at colleges and university, who's recently been very much talked about because the UC Berkeley deal, and he went to go speak, and all of the little kids threw a hissy fit and tried to burn the fucking school down. Now all of a sudden, bam, they're trying to roast this guy for saying that he supports and condones pedophilia. So I kind of step back and I'm like, I've listened to this guy talk quite a bit. I know that he's openly flamboyant. I know that he's openly gay. Let's take a deeper look at this, where a majority of the population steps back. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I actually like that guy. Damn him. On to the next lie. On to the next story. On to the next story. Did anybody research? Did anybody listen to what the hell he said? Did anybody, in my case, with the newspaper, go back and look and realize that all of the shit that the newspaper had said about me was actually indeed false? Did anybody go back and look at the public records, seeing that all of the shit that they talked was false? Nope. What do? Here's an article about Sean. Here's an article about Milo. Here's an article about whatever. He's got to be an asshole. He's got to just love little boys and be a pedophile. No, dude, what you need to do is pull your head out of your ass and actually think for a second and do a little bit of research and do a little bit of homework. But we live in a really entitled, lazy society. And so we're spoon-fed the bullshit, and we keep eating it and eating it and eating it and eating it. And what's fascinating to me is guys like Donald Trump can overcome that. Why? Because, one, they've established their own media platform, their own media presence. A guy like Milo can continue to make money and continue to do what he's doing because he's done the exact same thing. He's reached so many people, and there's so many people that actually do use common sense, that do use constructive thinking, that realize, wait a second, I've watched this guy for a long time. Like, a lot of people have talked a lot of shit about Sean Whalen, and he's this, and he's this, and he's this. Yet here he is, a family man, doing his deal, talking to this microphone, speaking around the world, helping lots and lots and lots of people. Maybe for a second, one or two people had their panties in a wad and just wanted to torpedo the guy. Maybe I should look into that. Now, people don't want to do that. I owned a company that did over 4,000 real estate transactions. A couple of people get mad. A couple of people go online. A dozen people. Sean's a dick. Sean's an asshole. I lost money. Oh, he's a total fraud. What about the other 3,000-something people that actually had a good experience? Do we talk about them? Nope. Why? That doesn't sell. That doesn't get eyeballs. What gets eyeballs is the sexy and the scandalous and the sizzle and the juicy. And a good majority of the time, bullshit. So my friends, I want to further this conversation with some people. I actually have a couple people in the media that are friends of mine that I want to bring on and have this same conversation. But just be aware. I mean, that's my thought process for you. That's do what you want to do, listen to what you want to listen to, watch what you want to watch. But, I would highly suggest, my friends, that you step back as you're consuming the media, as you're consuming this information, and really stop and think about it and do some critical thinking with it. Look at this story with Milo Yiannopoulos and use it as a reference, use it as an example. Same thing happens with Donald Trump. Same thing happens with politicians. Same thing happens with celebrities. It happens all the time, every single day. Understand and realize that these corporations, they don't wake up in the morning saying, I want to help all of these American people every single day. They don't do that. That is not their objective. That's not what their board wants. That's not what puts money in the coffers. What puts money in the coffers is getting your eyeballs. And what gets your eyeballs a good majority of the time is totally exploited bullshit. So, my friends, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Appreciate you listening. If this message resonates with you, if you like the podcast, I'd love for you to subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on iTunes. But better yet, share this with your friends. If you have some liberal freaking snowflakes that you think need to hear this message, if you know anybody in the media that you think needs to hear this message, feel free to share it with them. I would very much appreciate it. My friends, God bless you. God bless America.
You thought that I was playing in the past. Now I'm super fast, real raw, relevant. I'm also known as super bad, with a super attitude. If you don't like it, you can book a pass and be the first in line to kiss mine. Wait a minute, what I mean is I'm a lion, not a sheep. I don't need a weakling around to try to follow me. I'm destined to be better, getting bigger every day. I don't got the patience to sit around try to play. Focus like an animal, king of the jungle, cannibal.